Hey there, it's John with Refiner Fire Web Systems, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Divi Visual Builder. It's a powerful tool for WordPress websites that even a beginner can use and create a stunning website. And so I'll be showing you how to access the builder as well as some of the features that are included with the builder and some of the modules that you're able to use to create your website. So let's get started.
So first things first, why even bother using the Divi Builder? Well, for me, it comes down to a couple of main things. So for one, it's really easy if I want to pass this off to a client who's not so technical, they can go in there and feel pretty confident about making small changes to their site without really having to bring any special skills. So for instance, I'm here on a page for one of my clients. If they want to go in and they want to add text, they can open up the page and just click where they want to type, and it's that simple. If they want to add elements, they just click the plus buttons and it's there. Two, it's got a lot of great features for a more technical person that allow you to do things like, for instance, specialized scroll effects without having to go through and do all the technical work. So you can see how this pops in and out based on my scroll. It adds the ability to load in videos and do all kinds of things without me having to reinvent the wheel. And ultimately, the feature set that it has speeds up my workflow because I'm allowed to save templates and have access to this library of stuff that I create, and it makes for a really powerful tool when all is said and done. So we've talked about the why. Let's talk about where to access Divi. So Divi is made by Elegant Themes and it's available for purchase. It's fairly inexpensive and it's well worth the investment for what you're going to get. So basically it comes in two different flavors. So one is a full-on WordPress theme, which is what I recommend and what I use pretty much with all of my projects now. And then two, the Divi Builder plugin. So if you've already got a theme that you like, this plugin can come in on top of that and allow you to have the functionality that I'm going to show you here today without having to have the hassle of changing a theme. Okay, so whether you're using the plugin or the theme, the installation process is pretty similar. So first, you're going to go back to that site where you download either the theme or the plugin, and you'll receive a zip file. And then you're going to take that zip file, you're going to log into the back end of your WordPress website, and you're either going to add a new theme or you're going to add a new plugin if that's the option you want, and then you'll click update and add it. And let's just go ahead and get straight to building. So I'm going to set up a new page. You can see that we have the option here to use the Divi Builder. So let's go ahead and click that open. And you can see that as I'm going through, if this is your first time using Divi, it has a lot of instructions and tutorials just to walk you through the process and make you feel ultra comfortable. So now, right away, when you build a brand new page, you're presented with three different options. So you can either build it from scratch if you already know what you want and you've got a little bit of experience with the Divi Builder. You can choose a pre-made layout. So this allows you to pick from one of the layouts that are in their library or a layout that you've saved in your own personal library and have that just pulled into your site and ready to go right away. Or they've added a new feature called Build with AI. So basically you're able to describe the page that you want and it will build it for you. So for our purposes, let's just go ahead and choose a pre-made layout. And you can see here that they have dozens and dozens and dozens of layout packs to choose from that you can check out and see whatever you like here. So let's just, for the sake of this, let's just choose the produce farm, and it's looking good. And then each layout pack will have different types of pages that you can choose from. Let's go with just the standard landing page. And we're going to use this layout. And it comes with a set of presets. So let's go ahead and just import those as well. That'll make doing our layouts simpler moving forward. And then right away you can see we've got a fully formed page with almost no effort put in already. And so maybe this is not what you want on your page, but you can always use this as a jumping off point so that you've got the styles, the colors, and the basics set up for you, and then the rest is really just tweaking it to have the content that you want, because everything in here, as you can see, is just placeholder content. Now, let's go back up to the top and talk a little bit about what you see here. So first, as you might notice that as I'm hovering around, there are different kinds of blocks. We'll talk about that here in a second. I want to go first to this little bit in the middle. And if you don't see this right away when you are loading your page, it might be collapsed like this. So you just click it and it will allow you to load it where you want. So on this toolbar, you can see there are a few different sections. So first you have a section here for different types of views. Then you have a middle section that's really kind of your command center and the typical commands that you would need to use on a page. And then you have a place where you can save and publish. So let's start off here in the middle. So if you're starting a new page, or you have a page that you don't like and you want to do something a little different, you're able to go in and access that same menu that we had at the beginning by clicking this plus button. And so it'll have the same options as what you just saw. You can also, if you've got a layout that you have been working hard on and you really love, you can also save this to your own library. So if I click here, I can just give this a quick name, call it test. I can also upload this to the Divi cloud so that I can access this from any computer, any place. And then I have a few other options, being able to save components within each of these layouts separately if I'd like to, and I can create categories and tags and all of these things so that I'm able to save this later and come back to it if I want it. So let's go ahead and save that, and I can show you a little bit about what I'm talking about. So if I go back here to my insert layout button and take a look, I have saved this layout, and you can see the layout that we just set up is right here. Now, right next to it, I'm able to really quickly clear something out if I'd like to. You want to be careful with this, obviously, but this will allow you to go back to just pure from scratch. And then on the side, this is your page options. So these would be things like your thumbnail images, your title, your excerpt, the basics of what you are wanting to do with a page. And then a couple of cool features as well. You have the built-in ability to do split testing or A/B testing. That's a little bit more of an advanced feature. Here you have some design features specifically for spacing and text, and then the advanced page features. And this is one that I use quite a bit. The custom CSS allows me to add specific styles for this page only, just like you would any other CSS. So if I've got, for instance, H1s on the page and I want them to be a different color text, I can go in and graph instead. There you go. So you can see that we're able to see those changes in real time. And then let's talk a little bit about our views. So here you're able to toggle between different device views so that you can see how responsive your layout is. So I've got the desktop view open by default, but I can go quickly switch to a tablet. As you can see here, my tablet view, and then let's go to a mobile device. Another thing that you can do is if you have a specific mobile device that you'd like to look at, so for instance, the smallest mobile devices tend to be about 320 pixels wide. I can add that right away and see how good this looks or how bad this looks on a mobile device really easily, just like this. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back to my regular view. You also have the ability to zoom out and zoom in if you'd like. But let's talk about this fifth view here, which is our wireframe view. So the wireframe view really shows you how the overall modules are set up in the Divi Builder. So everything you see here in the wireframe page is basically a condensed view of what you see in the desktop version. So if I were to go back to our desktop version, you can see that I have one big blue section here. There's another with this green, and then there are a few things that are all kind of stacked up. And if I go back to my wireframe again, you can see that we have the same setup. So we have an overall section, and then each section can contain one or more rows like you see here. So these are shown, excuse me, in the light green. And then within those rows, you also have the ability to add columns. So by default, there's one column, but if I go over here and I click to change the column structure, you can see that I have lots of other options available to me, including 2 equal columns. You can have columns of varying widths and sizes. So for instance, if I do this, you can see that I have changed this to a 2-column layout. And if I go back, you'll see that this looks different on the front end here because everything has moved aside. Okay, so now I'm going to go back here. One other cool thing about this column structure in Divi and in the builder in general is the ability to drag and drop. So if I, let me just slow down here a little bit. If I go back to this gear icon for my row, all of my column settings are associated with the row. So I'm going to click open the row gear, and I have my 2 columns set up here. So I can actually really easily move these columns around if I'd like to. And you can see when I swapped these, the 2 columns over here also swapped. So you can see the top column here is associated with the leftmost column and then moving on down. So if I were to change the column structure again, like so, let's just do this here. This column, and let's actually give this column a name real quick just so that we can keep track of it. So this column, we'll call it here. So if I take this and I move it to the 2nd position, it goes to the 2nd position and so on. But let's go back to the single column as it was. And now let's talk about what's here in the middle. You see that we have these black or dark gray bars here. These are all called modules. And so this is where the actual content of your page lives. So you can see we've got an image module followed by a text module, another text module, and a button. And so if I want to see what's inside here from the wireframe view, I can click on the settings like so. And there are a few things that are common with each of these types of modules, no matter what type they are. So first, it's going to say at the top what type of module you're in. Then it's going to have a set of presets on the bottom of that so that you could see or you can save settings in a certain way and reuse them on other similar modules. And then below that, you'll see that we have 3 tabs here. And so these tabs are common on pretty much every one of these pop-ups that you see for modules, but also on the rows and the sections. So first is your content. So that's what's actually in the module. And this will vary a little bit depending on what type of module it is. So here we've got an image. So obviously you're able to pick out the image that you'd like here. And it pulls up just your default image loader here. There's always also a link section here. So if you want to add a special link to this module, you can do that here. Or if this is a button section, you can also have your button linked over here. And then a background. So this will give a color to the background of this overall module. And then you can see here we have different types of backgrounds that we can add to our modules, including everything from gradients. So I can really quickly show you what that is. So that's a gradient where it fades from one color into another. A background image. You can add background videos, patterns, or background mask as well. And then an admin label. So this is what I was showing you before. So I can, if I need to remember, if I've got a lot of images, for instance, and I want to be able to tell them apart, I can give this a special name that I can can relate to later. Like I can say that this is a leaf image if I can type. All right, and then it saves over here at the bottom. We can either save it, revert changes, or undo changes, or discard all of our changes. Okay, and so now going on to this next tab, the Design tab, this is where you add in different styles to the object or to the module that you are setting up. So for instance, with images, we might want to align that either left, right, or center. You can do that here. You can change the sizes, including all of the properties here. And I won't go into every single one of these because it's a lot, and there's some that are more advanced and maybe not necessary for every build you need to do. So this is something that you really are going to have to kind of come in and play with. And I'll show you one other thing about the Design tab here in a second with our text. But last, you have the Advanced tab, and this is going to allow you to do a few different things that are really common for web designers to need. So one, if you click down here, you're able to add an ID or a class to the markup for the overall module. So the module itself will be usually a div element in the HTML, and so this would give the ID to that outer div or that outer container that contains all the stuff, all of the content in your module. Or you can also add CSS at the module level. So this CSS in here will be applied just to the contents of the module. And there's two different ways to do this. One is using freeform CSS, and then two, you can also do the module level. So if you go on this tab, the module elements will usually be broken out into different parts of the module, especially for a more complex module. You might have one that targets just, say, a title, another that might target an image, and so on. For freeform CSS, this is a newer feature that's really neat. So this allows you to basically add a placeholder that will adapt so that it brings in the right selectors to target that specific module, and then anything within that module that you need to target specifically, you can go ahead and add in additional selectors and then your styles here. So for instance, the one that they have shown here would take all of the H1s, heading level ones in this module, and it would give them a text color of red. And this is a little hard to show you on an image, so let's go ahead and actually back out of here for a second, and let's go to a text. Because there are a few things that happen with text that are a little bit different than you'll see with image. So for one thing, you have a place to enter your text. And so you have a basic WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get editor, with all of the buttons that you would expect to see on a word processor. And so you're able to set different types of heading levels and so on using the drop down. So you can see I have the option to make this a heading level 1 all the way through 6, or just a basic paragraph. I can make bulleted lists, numbered lists, all of that really easily just by highlighting it and then selecting what you want to do with it. And then you also have the option, if you're more comfortable working in HTML or you need to add some special markup within the actual HTML, you can also select to edit the text. So you can see here that now they have shown you the actual elements themselves. And so actually this particular template is not doing a very good job of formatting this in a way that's proper, because really your page should only have one H1 tag. So let's go ahead and fix this for them while we're in here. So we can add, and then this will be a good chance to show you how this works. So let's add a little extra CSS here. So I'm going to go under Advanced again, and then I'm going to use my selector keyword, and then I'm going to use the class name. So you can do that by hitting period, that's class, and then we call that title 2, I believe, a value here. So let's go ahead and set this as display block. And that way it will take up its own line. And actually we can check and make sure that this worked on the front end. And actually we can go back here and you can see that there's no difference here. So let me actually, and now you can see as well how you're able to do the same things from the wireframe view as you are from the front end view. And this is where it really gets powerful. So if I go back, so I'm hovering over my module, and this is the one that we just edited, and I'm going to go back to my CSS, and you can see, let's just go ahead and set that back inline, that it automatically will take in the rules that I give it. So let's go ahead and save that, and you can see here, actually, I'm sorry, let's open that back up because there's one other thing that I want to show you in here, and that is, so let's go ahead, is with the way that they set up these different types of text here. So so when editing text and giving it a style, you can see that we have a text menu, and they like to use these tabs a lot in the Divi menus because it's got a lot of features, and some of these features are not going to be things that you commonly use, but you might need them sometimes. And so a lot of times they'll be hiding within these tab groups, like you can see here. So this is applying to just our default paragraph text right now. And you can see that we have lots of different settings available to us, from alignment, text sizes, and font choices, as well as a general text color. So this is something that is not really made clear a lot of times, but it's really important and will ultimately save you headache. In general, you want to make as few rules as possible, so that way you don't have to go back and override those rules later on. So one example of this is, you see up here that we have the ability to set a specific text color, but I might not want to do that because maybe I want to use a slightly different text color later or something like that, or I want to keep it consistent across the site. Well, I can set a default dark text color across the site and use that here, and I can do the same thing with a light background or light text. If I want it to be using a dark background, I might need light text so that I'm able to read it, and so I can swap between those using text color rather than this version of the text color. Another important thing to note is the way that they do font sizes. So you can type in a font size, and by default it will use the pixel value. You can also use other types of font size units. So for instance, you can change that from pixels to ems, and then it will change that to ems. Or my preferred method is rem, R-E-M. So I'm just going to leave that alone for now. And actually, if I have something I don't like that I want to revert back, I can do that real easily by hovering over the section. So every time I hover over the title, it will give me a pop-out menu that you see like this, and I can just quickly revert it by clicking that around arrow. And while we're on the subject, you can also see, excuse me, that you are able to set different settings depending on the device. So if I hover over again, I see this device that looks like a little mobile phone pop up. I'm going to click that, and you can see I can set different settings depending on whether it's a desktop size, a tablet size, or a phone size. And when I click this, it automatically adjusts the view so that I can see what I'm doing. And then if I don't want this to be a certain way anymore, I can unclick it. Another one that you'll use quite a bit is the hover effects. So if I want to have something look different depending on whether my cursor's hovering over it or not, I can click this arrow, And so this is what it'll look like on the desktop normally. This is what it'll look like if I hover over it. And then if I don't want this option anymore, I can just untoggle it and it'll go back. So let's move back up here. So like I was saying, a lot of things are hidden behind tabs. So if I want to edit links, I've got a tab that's all about just links specifically. The same thing for bulleted or unordered lists, or ordered lists, that's numbered lists, or block quotes. Now I'm going to close this menu up and take a look at the headings. And so if you remember, this right here was all an H1 heading. And so this is where you need to know your heading levels to be able to edit this correctly. So since this was a heading 1, if I want to edit this, I'm going to need to go to the heading text, H1. If this were heading 2 or H2, I would edit it under the H2 tab. We're back on our main page in the Visual Builder again, and I want to show you just one or two last little features that are really going to be helpful to you as you use the Divi Builder. So one is the ability to edit the spacing. So you can do that from the menu like I showed you here earlier. If you click on the gear, go to design, there is a section for spacing here. But you can also do this from the front end, which is really helpful if you are more of a visual person. This lets you see exactly what you're getting right away. And so all you have to do is hover over the section you want, and then the space where you, or the area where you see that space, it'll show you where that space is coming from. So right now we can see that it's associated with that image module, and I can just click it and drag it to be as big or small as I want it. Oops. And so I messed something up, so I'm going to actually just this is a good opportunity to show you a real quick trick. So if I do something I don't like, I can easily undo this by clicking Command or Control Z, and this should allow me, this would act like an undo button for me and allow me to go back to the way things were before. So as you can see, just what I just did, you can also easily move things around on the page just by clicking on it, holding your cursor or your mouse button down, and then just dragging it and letting go when you've got it in the space where you want it. So you can see it'll kind of give you a preview of where it's going to drop that element right there for you, so that you can see what you're getting right away. One last thing is, if you want to add a new section, if you want to add a new module, what so have you, anytime you want to add something new to the page, you can hover over and click new, add new, whatever. So for instance, let's go ahead and take a look at the available modules. And so you can see here, we've got a lot of different choices available to us, and a lot of them bring in really nice automatic graphics and make it really easy to do some really cool scroll effects and so on. So there's lots to explore here, and this can also update depending on whether you have other plugins like WooCommerce installed. Sometimes you'll see additional options here in the modules menu, but this is really a good place to stop off. There's a ton more I could really show you here as far as being able to add special transitions as well as animations, and even being able to design custom templates in here for specific areas of your site. But I think that this is a good place to stop. We'll make sure that we do videos on some of these more advanced topics in the future, but if you have any questions, make sure you let me know down in the comments, and I will also add a link to where you can access Divi for yourself in the show notes. Take care. God bless.